I'll do for you. No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Shall we begin, ladies and gentlemen, dear students and all lecturers today? We have the guest lecturer joining us. So we will begin the our general lecture. So, Bismillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Greetings and peace to all of us. It is great honor to be your moderator for today's event. This is highly anticipated general lecture from the Midwifery Department Poltekkes Kemenkes Bandung. On behalf of the academic community, the management, the chief of department, we extend warm welcome to our distinguished guest speaker and everyone, students, lecturers, and all the academic community who have joining us today. So today we are privileged to hear from two remarkable speakers, experts. We will share their deep insights on critical aspects of diabetes in the context of midwifery and maternal care. And we have the first speaker, we have Professor Linda McGowan. Hello, Professor.
Hello.
Okay, I'm audible enough to you? Yeah. Good afternoon. What time in Leeds today?
It's morning.
Morning,
So
I see.
9 a.m. in the
9
morning.
a.m. Okay. So it is afternoon in Indonesia,
Yeah,
in
I
West
know.
Java.
Yeah,
It's okay. And the second speaker, we have Dr. Lirin Wulandari, PhD. Okay. Hello, Dr. Lirin.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today. And ladies and gentlemen, students, especially the midwifery student from Poltekkes Kemenkes Bandung. How are you today? Hello, students. Where are you? Mana semua? Sudah on cam? Are you ready for the lecture? Sudah siap untuk kuliah? Okay, before we begin the lecture, please allow me to briefly outline the flow of today's session. Today, the speaker or the lecturer will give their presentation. I think it will be the panel. So the first speaker, probably Professor Linda McGowan, we will explain and give the lecture. And then the second one is Mrs. Ririn. And after the presentation or the lecture, we will have a discussion session. And for our students, please behold and be ready. Prepare your stationery and notes to take important notes. So, Mrs. Ririn and Professor McGowan, our students mainly have a very ability in English. So the English proficiency among students are quite diverse. So we have a small request to ensure everyone can fully benefit from your expertise. So we sincerely ask your patience, maybe an understanding if our student need to ask question to clarify or rephrase the questions to ensure that they have grasped the concept fully. And please pardon any instances. So, jadi mungkin kan kalian bisa fokus ya dalam mendengarkan in English ya. Walaupun ya mungkin nanti kalau misalnya ada yang kurang jelas dicatat ya penjelasannya. Terus nanti boleh ditanyakan lagi kalau memang kurang jelas. Ya. Halo? Students? Okay. Thank you. So before we begin with the lecture, I will briefly introduce the curriculum vitae of Mrs. Professor McGowan. I'm sorry. Mana ya? CV-nya ya, sebentar. Sudah muncul CV. Sebentar, filenya di mana lupa. Curriculum vitae-nya.
Itu ya Bu Ririn ya.
Oke. Oh, dari tadi ke mute ya. Baik. Oke. 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 Ya, ini CV-nya ya. CV from Professor Linda McGowan. She is the lecturer in Leeds University. Ya, benar ya. Oke, mana yang sudah saya ini sebentar. Okay, maybe you could explain about your expertise, Ms. Professor. I have read your CV, and she has a lot of expertise in a lot of research in mana risetnya hilang ya? In psychological, social, and cultural factors, and special interest in maternal and women's children health and well-being, and focus on psychological, social, and cultural factors. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, please welcome Professor Linda. The room is yours. Silahkan. Okay.
Yes. Mr. Reading, could you start the slideshow, please?
Right, okay, hang on. I wonder if you, right, can you see the slide now?
Yes,
Right,
that's
perfect.
it. Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. And you can hear me, Reading. You can
Yes.
hear me. Yeah. Okay.
Teman
Right.
semua bisa dengar Profesor Linda suaranya teman-teman G?
Yes, we can hear clearly.
Yeah. I'll start. Shall I begin?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'm delighted to be invited to speak to your university today, your Polytechnic, and I know it's got an excellent reputation in Indonesia. So I'm very pleased to be able to speak, and particularly so because I'm speaking with my former PhD student, who's now got her PhD, Dr. Ririn Wulandari, who is going to share some of the lecture with me to explain her research because it's relevant to the topic area. And what I'm going to speak to you about today is a topic called gestational diabetes mellitus in pregnancy, so shortened to GDM, gestational diabetes mellitus. And I'm going to explain how it sits within the sort of wider context of diabetes and pregnancy, and talk about the related risks to maternal and fetal outcomes. As the chair said, I'm a professor of applied health research in the School of Healthcare at the University of Leeds, UK. I'm also a visiting professor at Unisa University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. So I've visited Indonesia on a few occasions, and I love Indonesia, mainly Java Island. I've not been to Bandung, but I've been to Surakarta and Yogyakarta and Java. And like I said, Ririn, who's now got her PhD, is going to give her side of the story of the research that we did, that Ririn led for her doctorate in Indonesia. Just a little bit about myself. You saw my CV briefly, but for those of you in the audience who are nurses and midwives, that's how I started off. I've had two careers, really. My first career was I was a nurse and clinical midwife. So I understand midwifery. I've delivered babies. I've trained to be a midwife. So I understand how difficult it is sometimes to train to be a midwife. There's a lot to learn. And so I work with health professionals, and my second career really has been in academia. And my PhD is in health psychology. And at Leeds, I teach across the spectrum. I do research around women's health and women during pregnancy, a wide range in research from mental health through to physical health. And I also teach across the university. I teach medical students, nursing, midwifery students, lots of different groups of students, to really focus on the psychological, social and cultural factors that apply to health and well-being. Next slide, please. So what we're going to talk about today is gestational diabetes in pregnancy. And look, this is how the lecture is going to be presented. So we're going to talk about, first of all, what is it? What is GDM? What does it mean? And why is it so important? And why do I think, as a midwife of many, many years, I think it's growing in importance, not just in the UK, but worldwide. We're going to talk about what women think, what women understand about gestational diabetes. And then Riri is going to bring in the recent research that we've done in Indonesia via Ririn's doctorate, where she looked at what the context is in Indonesia. What's the understanding of GDM amongst health professionals and women in the Indonesian context? And then we'll talk about what can we do about it, particularly as midwives, what can we do? And then we'll have the question and answer session at the end. And please don't worry if your English isn't what you think it is. It's I've got lots of international students, and I can only speak a little Bahasa Indonesia, so I know how hard it is to speak in another language. So and there's no silly questions, so ask anything that you like at the end of the lecture. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you some background, gestational diabetes mellitus, or GDM, is any degree of glucose intolerance with onset or first recognition in pregnancy. So this is regardless of the type of management used to deal with the problem, and crucially, it may or may not resolve after pregnancy. A lot of women and a lot of health professionals think it goes away. It does for most women, but not all. We'll come back to these messages as I go through the lecture. The important thing is that GDM increases the risk of adverse outcomes for both mother and baby. And up to 5% of pregnancies in the UK are affected by pre-existing diabetes or GDM, and the majority of cases are gestational diabetes now in the UK. Next slide, please. So it's a busy slide, but I just want to get the key messages across here that gestational diabetes is not type 1 and it's not type 2 diabetes in pregnancy. And this is really important. So type 1 diabetes is characterized by a deficient insulin production and requires a daily administration of insulin. It usually occurs in childhood or adolescence. So people come into pregnancy taking insulin, they already have type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes results from the body's ineffective use of insulin. That tends to come when people are older, although increasingly now it's coming in younger population because of diet and exercise, poor diet and lack of exercise. Whereas gestational diabetes is hyperglycemia, so a higher than normal glucose in the blood that develops during pregnancies and tends to resolve after delivery. So you could identify glucose intolerance in pregnancy into 3 groups. And so you've got your type 1, your type 2 diabetes, but the majority have exclusively pregnancy-specific glucose intolerance or gestational diabetes. Obviously, some women will come into pregnancy with type 2 diabetes and they might be diagnosed in pregnancy, but it's a very, very small number. So this is UK data, because we've got limited data in Indonesia. So about 1% of pregnancies are in women with existing diabetes, type 1 or type 2, whereas gestational diabetes affects about 4% of pregnancies. Next slide, please, Ririn. So if you just follow these circles from sort of the right side round. So this is UK data. So it's just to give you a sense of the growth in this problem within the UK. So approximately 700,000 births give birth to women in England and Wales. And this is slightly older data than this year because of the collection. So 5% of all women present with diabetes in pregnancy. And type 1 is roughly about 7.5% of women. In the green circle, you'll see that type 2 presentation is about 5% of that population. But gestational diabetes is nearly 90% of the whole of the diabetes presentation in pregnancy, so 87.5%. So what we are seeing in the UK is a sort of explosion of women who are presenting in pregnancy with gestational diabetes. There's quite a few contributing factors and risk factors, which I'm going to talk about, include things like older maternal age in pregnancy, obesity, ethnicity, but we'll go into those in more detail as we go through the lecture. Next slide, please. So just to give you some background, in the UK, we are guided by national government guidelines from our Department of Health. And the NICE Institute is the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, provides our evidence-based guidelines in the UK. And they recommend selective testing of all women between 24 and 28 weeks of women who've got known risk factors for gestational diabetes. However, in some areas, one of the risk factors is being from a South Asian background. So in one city near Leeds called Bradford, we have a high population where the ethnicity is South Asian women. And there, in that area, they test all women at 24 to 28 weeks, whether they have risk factors or not. Generally, they start with a fasting blood glucose once the women have known risk factors, but the only test where you can fully diagnose gestational diabetes is the glucose tolerance test called GTT, where a woman comes in fasting, she's given a very sugary drink, and blood is taken over 2 hours to see how she copes with that increased sugar. And from various parameters on charts and statistics, they can work out whether this woman has gestational diabetes or not. And then the woman is not just given advice on risk and diet and lifestyle factors. In the UK, we're lucky to have developed specialist pathways. So we have a specialist clinic at Leeds for women with all diabetes, but especially GDM, and it's a multidisciplinary clinic. We have specialist midwives trained specifically in diabetes. We have nutritionists and dietitians, and the consultant who works along the obstetricians and gynecologists is an endocrinologist by background, Dr. Eleanor Scott, who specializes in diabetes in pregnancy. So women get a lot of monitoring and a lot of support. And Rima will talk about guidance in national guidance in Indonesia later, I'm sure. Next slide, please. So what are the risk factors? Well, these are known risk factors. So obesity and overweight is a known risk factor. So BMI above 30 kg is a risk factor for GDM. If the woman has had a previous large baby in pregnancy, a so-called macrosomic baby weighing 4.5 kilograms or more, then she's at risk of gestational diabetes in subsequent pregnancies. If there's a previous history of gestational diabetes, so if a woman has had GDM in the first pregnancy, she's likely to develop it in the second pregnancy or subsequent pregnancies. And as I've said, Southeast Asians, so ethnic minority is linked, and in the UK, Black and Afro-Caribbean heritage as well, have a high prevalence of diabetes anyway, and are more prone to develop GDM during pregnancy. And although women of Southeast Asian origin face an increased risk of gestational diabetes, the screening and detection and management of in South Asia is underdeveloped, as it is in areas of Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. So what I want to emphasize is this is a global health problem. It's not just UK-centric or Northern Hemisphere. This is a global problem. The rates of diabetes are escalating across the world, as is gestational diabetes. So in diabetes in pregnancy, GDM affects approximately 10 to 25 pregnancies worldwide. The prevalence is increasing because of maternal obesity and inactivity. And it's set to rise further because the new International Association of Diabetes and Pregnancy subgroup have developed specific criteria, and it's very strict. So in India, rates are estimated at 10 to 14%. In Nepal, the percentage of women with gestational diabetes was assessed initially at 2.5%. And then when the international criteria was applied, this raised to 6.6%. So a more stricter criteria will identify more cases. Next slide, please. So what about the local picture in Leeds, where I am? So this is the north of the UK. Some of you may have visited the UK, so you'll know it. We're about 2.5 hours away from London by train. So compared with Indonesia, UK is a very small country. So you can get around very easily. I know Ririn went London, Scotland, all over when she was with us. So this is the data from our local hospital trust. So it's just to give you an example of the levels that we're dealing with. This data was collected between the 1st of April 24 and 31st of March 25, so relatively recent data. The total deliveries in our local trust, so that's the Leeds Teaching Hospital Trust, for that period was 7,982. Now, 54.9% of the pregnancies were people living with overweight and obesity already. And that's compared with 41% who had a healthy BMI at pregnancy booking. So you can see we've already got a problem with overweight and obesity. And moreover, those people with obesity and overweight problems are likely to live in more deprived neighbourhoods, where there's not maybe access to good food. Poverty is an issue here, and also in active lifestyle. So within this cohort that I'm talking about in Leeds, of 991 pregnant people were recorded as having GDM in this time frame, April 24 to March 25. So that's 12.4% of all births. And that's likely to be an underrepresentation because not all women are detected or screened. And again, there's an overrepresentation in what we call IMD1. Now, in the UK, we have deprivation indices, and every area in the UK has a score. And 1 is the worst deprivation possible, and it's measured very accurately with education levels, crime levels, dietary levels. So lots of factors go in to how areas are classified. So in the area in Leeds, which is the most deprived, they have the highest prevalence of gestational diabetes, 42%, compared with the fact that 34% of that population are using the maternity services. So there is this link with deprivation and poverty as well. Next slide, please. So what about Indonesia? Well, data relating to the context of gestational diabetes in Indonesia is sparse, but we know it's likely to be there because of all the figures we have from Southeast Asia. And in line with other countries, the rise in non-communicable diseases means that type 2 diabetes is set to rise and is rising globally. There are obviously links to change in diet worldwide and changes in physical activity or lack of physical activity or suitable physical activity. And I was fortunate enough to meet Ririn, who wanted to do a PhD, I don't know, about 4, maybe 5 years ago, Ririn, when we first met. And Ririn has a background in public health. She had a master's in public health, and this is quite a major public health problem. So she was interested, this was one of the areas she was interested in, and I was interested in. So when you want to do a PhD, you have to match up with your supervisor's research interests and expertise. So it was lucky that we married in this way of our interest in diabetes. So Ririn went on to explore the problem of gestational diabetes in the Indonesian setting, exploring health professional and women's experiences and the knowledge and understanding about gestational diabetes in Indonesia. And she's going to talk about that later. Okay, next slide, please, Ririn. So why is it so important? Well, the importance is related to outcomes. It's the fact that women who present with gestational diabetes are much more likely to have adverse outcomes, both for the mother and the baby. So for the woman, she's more likely to develop preeclampsia, and women with gestational diabetes are 7 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes later in life. This is important because that's 50% of those women who have GDM in pregnancy will later go on to develop type 2 diabetes, which affects the rest of their lives and their health going forward. And a lot of women don't know this. They think GDM is something very mild. It comes in pregnancy. Doctor tells them, or midwife tells them to have play about with your diet a little bit. It goes away. It's not a problem ever again. But it can be a problem, and women are not aware of this. And some health professionals are not aware of these risks. For the baby, if we have a larger baby, as you know, macrosomia increases the risk of birth injury and birth complications. So, and also having assisted birth, much more likely, to have things like shoulder dystocia if a baby's large, to need a cesarean section, a forceps delivery. There is a relationship between gestational diabetes and stillbirth, which I'm going to talk about. And the baby, longer-term epidemiological studies are showing that the baby themselves is much more likely to be obese later in life and to develop type 2 diabetes themselves later in life. So there's risks that are immediate risks to mother and baby, and there's longer-term risks to outcomes here. Can you just press the slide, Ririn? Thank you. So regarding stillbirth, there was some work done with a colleague of ours, which has provided evidence of a link between gestational diabetes and stillbirth. Now, we know there's a link between diabetes and stillbirth generally, but people were unsure, is there still a link with gestational diabetes? So Dr. Thomasina Stacey is at King's College in London, and this study was published in the British Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Her and her colleagues looked at a database. So it wasn't looking at women themselves, it was looking at databases. And they looked at women who developed signs of diabetes in pregnancy, but had not been diagnosed. And when they did the analysis, so it's quite a sophisticated statistical analysis that they did, they found that those women that had symptoms but were not diagnosed were much more likely to experience a stillbirth than women without the condition. So the risk of stillbirth was calculated to be 4 times higher for those women who had potentially undiagnosed gestational diabetes. So this is quite a high risk. And this increased risk was linked to the fact it wasn't diagnosed, and therefore it wasn't properly managed, and women didn't get the care that they needed. But you've got to understand here that this is a cross-sectional study. It's using data. So it's an association. It's not cause and effect necessarily. So it needs further research, and further research is going on in this area. Next slide, please. So I think the key messages for me, just before we move on to the next part of the lecture, is the key message is that gestational diabetes in pregnancy are related to short-term adverse outcomes to both mother and baby, but equally related to longer-term outcomes for the mother, who could develop type 2 diabetes later in life, and for the baby, who's at risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes later in life. Riri, could you just press the button? Thank you. So this is a major public health issue and a global public health issue. Next slide, please. So what's the management of gestational diabetes? Well, the excuse me, I'm getting my words tangled. The primary management of this is strategy. The management strategy is diet and lifestyle advice. Now, this sounds easy. You know, we just give people advice on diet and lifestyle, but actually it's very skillful to give the right messages, because if we want people to change their lifestyle, they need to change their behavior. And behavior change is not easy. You know, there's techniques to help with behavior change, but anybody knows, I know a couple of times in my life I've been on a diet to try and lose weight at times, and it's not easy. You start off well, but motivation can drop. You know, different things happen. Somebody offers you cake with your coffee. You know, it's very easy not to follow this kind of advice. So it's not that easy for women. Some women require oral blood glucose lowering tablets just during pregnancy, such as metformin, and some women we do put on insulin if the glucose isn't well controlled, only for the pregnancy. And they have regular monitoring. As I've said, we're lucky in the UK to have specialist clinics, so women are checked, they have dietary advice, they have lifestyle advice, they have a specialist midwife, and they have regular glucose tested. And also now we have the continuous glucose monitoring patches for women, so they don't actually have to prick the finger to take the blood. They can have it monitored by a patch. But that's another trial that's going on. More research is needed in that, but more and more it's getting easier for women to take their own blood sugars. Next slide, please. So what do women know about GDM? And many health professionals don't know much. Well, this is UK study, but women don't know very much at all about it. And the existing literature, not just in the UK, but worldwide, shows that women have quite an emotional reaction when they find out they've got gestational diabetes. They don't really understand it, and they're quite shocked to get this diagnosis that they've not really heard of. There's a lack of awareness of the possible consequences of GDM, both short and long term. And the diet advice has said sometimes it's too complex for women to understand, or it's not related to their type of diet. So, you know, it might not include things like in UK, our staple carbohydrate is potatoes, for example. Now, I know in Indonesia it's rice. So people need to be given advice that suits their own diet, their cultural diet and needs. And the focus tends to be on a woman in her first pregnancy and not subsequent pregnancies. But once a woman's had GDM, she's more likely to have it in subsequent pregnancies. Next slide, please, Ruben. So again, looking at what women understand, we did a study. Zoe Darwin and I, a colleague, got some interference. We conducted a research study to examine women's constructions or understandings of gestational diabetes, and there was a wider study going on in Leeds looking at dietary management, and the study group in our Department of Nutrition had developed, and our epidemiologists had developed a tool called MyFood24, which was an online dietary tool to help people understand the carbohydrate values and the glucose values. The glucose values. So women in this trial, we approached them so we could interview some of these women to see what their experiences were and their understandings were of gestational diabetes. Next slide, please, Ruben. So this is the methods. So in total, 107 women enrolled in the trial, the MyFood24 study, and of these, 15 women agreed to be interviewed by our team, my team, and the interviews were conducted between 27 and 37 weeks gestation. 13 of the women were pregnant at the time, and 2 were very early postpartum. They'd already delivered by the time we'd got to them. The interviews were conducted by telephone. They were recorded and transcribed verbatim, so every word was transcribed. We then did the analysis using computer software and a particular theoretical model, and then as a team we analysed the data. Next slide, please, Ruben. So the findings were that mainly women just weren't expecting to have it. They were absolutely shocked. They didn't understand it. They had little awareness. So these are some quotes from our qualitative analysis. So this woman says, I kind of thought you only get gestational diabetes when you're really overweight. And that's kind of, I haven't really worried about it because she wasn't that overweight. And even when they referred me for tests, I thought, oh, well, this is a waste of time. But in fact, she did turn out to have gestational diabetes. And another woman says, I've not really heard about it. Next slide, please. So women, when they were aware of the risk, they wanted to be in control because they wanted to look after themselves and their pregnancies. So they focused obviously on the short-term considerations of being a good mother, of taking responsibility and making the right decisions. So this woman says, I'm really quite a serious person about these things. And I just think I'm the mum here. It's my duty to get this baby safely out. The bigger it gets, the more risks that are attached to things. Then another woman says, I think it's not just you, it's about the health and safety of your baby. You know, getting through the pregnancy with everyone well and intact. Next slide, please. And weighing up the risk, because lifestyle's challenging, they also recognise they needed to be balanced and have a life themselves. So lifestyle changes, as I said, can be challenging. Most spoke about the importance of managing their diet, but views varied on the extent to which GDM was in their control. So a lot of women in pregnancies, you know, don't like to take any medication unless it's essential. So this woman said, I'd like to stay on diet control without taking any medicine. I know they're available, but I want to be able to control it myself without medication. So I've been putting myself under a bit of pressure. Well, it's not suitable for pregnant women. Why should I be taking it? So sometimes when women need it, we have to be clear to them about the risk is more about the baby. The risk is more if they don't take the medication than if they do. Not all women need it, but they often are reluctant, and it's understandable to take any medication. And this woman understood if you don't control it with diet, then you may have to go on tablets and insulin.
Bulan depan pengennya ditanamin terus biar bisa keluar, tapi nggak apa-apa 2 bulan juga bisa di rumah. Tapi
I'm sorry for the disturbance.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Continue.
Next slide, please, Ruben. So just a summary of the interviews we did with women in the UK before I pass to Ririn is women experience shock of the diagnosis. It causes an emotional burden in their pregnancy. And this is a time when you want women to enjoy their pregnancies. The emphasis is concerns with short-term risk to the baby. They don't really think about themselves. And despite being tested for GDM based on risk factors at booking, they still don't understand that they may develop it later on in pregnancy. And there's a diversity of understandings about the risk accompanied with various different obstetric histories and risk factors.
Pun bulan
So
ini aku bisanya
generally,
justru minggu akhir 15-16
So generally in the UK, awareness of gestational diabetes is poor, even when women have diabetes already in the family. They don't link it to the fact that they may be at risk of gestational diabetes in pregnancy. Next slide, please, Ririn. Okay, so now I'm going to pass over to Ririn to tell you about a really interesting doctoral study that was set in Indonesia. Over to you, Ririn.
Thank you, Linda. Very interesting lecture that you already gave. Hi, everyone. My name is Ririn Wandari. Probably I'll just briefly introduce myself, Ibu dosen, so that you do not need to reintroduce me later.
Okay, yes, all right.
Right. My name is Ririn Wandari. Currently I'm working as a lecturer in Aisyah University, Pingsewu, di Lampung. I was a former PhD student supervised by Professor Linda McGowan at the University of Leeds, and also another supervisor from the University of Leeds, Professor Eleanor Scott. She is professor in diabetes, and also Dr. Yufu from University of Liverpool. So I would like to share with you today about my project that I did with Professor Linda McGowan during my PhD. As similar as Professor Linda, I'm a midwife by background. I used to be a clinical midwife back years back, but no longer working in a clinical setting now. I work in academia currently. And I also a public health specialist, focusing on reproductive health and rights. I did my master on that area. And
ya dari situ aja nanti pasti udah banyak yang nggak bisa.
I'm delighted. I'm grateful to work with Professor Linda McGowan for a couple of years, giving the lecture on gestational diabetes, both for Indonesian students as well as for the bachelor degree of midwife student in University of Leeds. And also now I'm writing a publication together with Professor Linda on gestational diabetes, and hopefully that the draft will be finished soon, because we are still working on that. And also I have some experience working on maternal health in emergency situation in remote areas in Indonesia. And also currently I'm working around mental health with my colleague from University of Manchester. So that's some information about me. So I'm very grateful and honored to be here to share my research with you all. And I look forward if we can have a future collaboration in this issue. That will be very, very great. So my project title is around women and healthcare professionals, experience, knowledge, and understanding of GDM in Indonesia, a single exploratory case study. So why I focus on this issue? Because as Professor Linda McGowan said, that GDM is overlooked in Indonesia, especially. No, not so many people talk about GDM. But on the other hand, the diabetes rate is increasing all over the world, especially in Indonesia. We are the 7th largest country with the with diabetes cases. So that's a lot patient with diabetes, but not so many people talk about gestational diabetes. While GDM itself is a window opportunity. If Professor McGowan told me, it's a window opportunity to prevent the real type 2 diabetes happening to the mother. If we catch them during the pregnancy, we can manage it, and then hopefully we can prevent it for the type 2 diabetes later in life. So that's the reason why I'm passionate about this issue. The objective is to explore the experience, knowledge, and understanding of GDM, because there's not so much we know around this issue in Indonesia. We did qualitative systematic review, me and Professor Linda and my supervisors. We looked to the 5 databases, but we got very limited data around these things in Indonesia. So very limited number of research have been done around GDM, at least the public that published internationally. So that's why we're really keen on to explore what is happening in Indonesia around GDM. And also we would like to explore how GDM is identified and managed in routine practice, and to know if there are any national or local guidelines of GDM that in place, and also to know to what extent they are used to guide the practice. The approach of the methods that we use in this study, we use the case study design. Case study design is kind of approach that allow you as the researcher to collect the data with multiple methods of data collection to make it rich qualitative research. In my study, we employed interview, and also we did the interview to the healthcare professionals as well as interview the woman, and also we do the observation of the routine practice of GDM management, and also we study the document related to the GDM. So the study is a single exploratory case study. So initially it was planned to be a multiple case study employed from 2 different levels of healthcare facility, in primary level and the tertiary level. But because I did this research around 2021, where at that time the COVID hit Indonesia very hard, and I got difficulties to get the data to be able to go to the hospital, to tertiary hospital. I do not get that permission because it was very restricted. To be, there's no way for me to collect the data at that time at the tertiary level hospital. So yeah, we decided to modify. We decided to modify the study, and we decided to do a single exploratory case study in a public health center in Bandar Lampung. That's where I live now. And we do the data collection with 27 interviews with 6 with women who are identified having GDM, and 21 healthcare professionals from various backgrounds. This is the characteristic of women that I interviewed. As you can see here, don't worry, this is not the real name. They are a pseudonym. It's not the real name. As you can see that most of those women have the family history of diabetes. As Professor Linda told us earlier, that family history of diabetes is one of the risk factors of the GDM itself. At that time, 3 was pregnant and 3 women was in a postpartum period. And this is the participant from the healthcare professionals that I interviewed. I interviewed 21 healthcare professionals. Mostly they are midwives, because as we know that midwives is the most, closest ally of the woman in Indonesia. So that's why I interview many midwives, and also the doctors, and also the head of the dentist itself is the head of the healthcare, the health center and the laboratory staff, nutritionists, pharmacists, and a nurse. So I really want to know, the whole picture of the understanding of the healthcare professional in that particular place. So this is some of the findings that I got from my study. So the first is from the woman's side. The team is around the experience and the reflections and the views of hyperglycemia in pregnancy. So women, all those women, 6 women in my study, they were tested for GDM incidentally rather than through routine screening. So it's because they are, encounter something and then they are tested for glucose and then they were diagnosed with the GDM. This is not a routine practice in that health center. So they are unprepared for the diagnosis and it leads to anxiety. They are shocked, they are afraid, they are sad because, the condition is uncertain and they don't really get much support from the healthcare professionals. One woman said that I was pregnant with my second child. She is a nurse. So we as healthcare professionals used to have checkup program from health center. This lady is work as a nurse in the health center. So there was a program, ma'am, coincidentally at that time I was pregnant. So it's not through the regular testing again. And the other woman expressed the anxiety. She said that if I look to my neighbor who got diabetes, they died, right? It was really surprised. It actually made me drop. Think about it every night. Sometimes every night I cry. I wonder why I cannot eat well. I really have to take care of that. It's sad, she said like that. It showed her anxiety, her sadness to hear about the diagnosis and unprepared situation around the diagnosis. Another finding from the woman is about the physical and psychological consequences of living with this condition. Because living with GDM brings both physical and emotional consequences for women. And those symptoms often make their anxiety and the fear more and more, growing day by day, leading them to feel reluctant, afraid to do the regular blood glucose. It's like, like a circle. The more they afraid of the condition, the more they do not want to know the glucose level, the more they do not know, the higher the glucose level will be. Those situation is really complicated in women side. One woman said that what I felt was before I knew I had blood sugar, I always wake in the morning at 8 o'clock, sleepy, easy to get tired. Why I feel this tired in the morning, sleepy, and she will always want to sleep. That's the physical symptoms that the woman told me during the interview. And for the emotional consequences, one woman said that even though I take it easy, I keep thinking about it. Has it gone down or not? That's why until now I haven't checked the lab because I'm afraid that if it goes down, thank God. But if it's high, I'm afraid it will get higher. So because she decided she doesn't want to check because she is afraid. Another things from the woman's side is that woman concerned on healthy diet. This thing is a cultural related, yeah, because in Indonesia we eat rice 3 times a day mostly, and those women often rely on self-made lifestyle modification to manage the condition, because sometimes due to the inadequate information from the healthcare professionals and the limited guidance from the healthcare professionals, so they rely on their way to solve their problem. One woman said, like my midwife said yesterday, especially the rice, it has to be reduced because the sugar content of the rice is really high, she said. Especially if it is just cooked, it needs to be reduced, she said. First time knowing high blood sugar, all has to be reduced, she said like that. And then the other said, oh, when it's come to the rice, I'm afraid of it. So, you know, different women, different perspective around the diet, and they find their own way because the information is not it's inadequate from the healthcare professionals around diet. Another thing from women is that women try to manage the condition by seeking peace from God. In the Indonesian context, seeking from God is widely believed as a certain way to relieving the anxiety. So they say like, oh, we just surrender, or thought that God has shown me. I prayed, istikharah, ask for the direction, and so on and so forth. So this particular way, they believe that it can make them more relaxed to face the condition. Again, from the woman is the issue is around lack of communication and compromised services, leading to dissatisfaction among women. So sadly, this is also homework for us as a midwife. Sadly, the women that I interview, most of them are not really keen on by the support that midwife gives. They tend to search information from other parties, like from the Facebook group, from the neighbor, from I don't know, from the groups that in a group chat, and so on and so forth. Because they said like the one woman said that the language is difficult for us to understand, the language from the healthcare professionals, I mean. So we are more afraid. If we look or read information in the group chat, it is a bit lighter, says. We understand better. Oh, this is like this, like that. I think it's like that. So this woman is, you know, have more, you know, she more confidence to talk about this her issue with the group chat rather than to talk with the midwives, sadly. So yeah, we have to work on that as a midwife. And also they are not really happy with the system, with the health system. One woman said that tired of going back and forth, pounding, no practical fatigue. It was third day, I was in hurry to be discharged from the hospital, already healthy from Hong Kong, you know, like sehat dari Hong Kong, you know, those kind of phrase that the woman said that, oh, because she is really not happy with the service that the health facility gives to her. Now, this is the time for us to see from the healthcare professional's perspective. So this is about the healthcare professional views, knowledge, and understanding related to hyperglycemia in pregnancy. One healthcare professional said, it's not that often, it's rare. There is only one case here, it's not many. So the healthcare professional mostly believe that the GDM is a rare condition. Yeah. And then the other said that, yes, as far as I know, there used to be genes. Yes, there were heredity. But what presented was that, but it was triggered again by the diet, ma'am, and exercise. Excessive carbohydrate diet isn't a healthy lifestyle. So they show, you know, limited understanding about but they know something that the glucose level in the pregnant woman is linked with the diet and, you know, unhealthy lifestyle, those kind of things. But they also believe that it's because of the genes, yeah, because hereditary, meaning that it's because of the history of the family. But which we know that, yes, it's one of the risk factors, but it's not, you know, cause and effect, make someone having the GDM. Other thing from the healthcare professionals is about the management of hyperglycemia in pregnancy. One healthcare professional said that RBG, random blood glucose. So this is about the test that they did for the pregnant woman with high blood glucose. They do the random blood glucose. While we know that it's not ideal, the ideal test for the GDM is using the OGTT, oral glucose tolerance test, where Professor Linda McGowan already told us that the woman should come fasting, take the glucose, 75 gram of glucose. You know, most of the time they drink the glucose and then they wait 2 hours and then recheck again. But in that public health center, they do the RBG, random blood glucose. Because women do not plan, they usually don't know that they will be check the lab. Usually the midwife say, okay, we'll check the lab, okay? It's just, you know, the woman is just calm to do the ANC, and then okay, let's do the check. So the woman is not prepared, come to the public health center without fasting, so it's no way for them to do the OGTT. Another thing around the management is that the healthcare professionals is not really giving the clear information around diet, around the fruits, yeah? All fruits are not forbidden. It's just the one that's too sweet, not take too much. Sometimes pregnant women have a bad taste in their mouth, so they crave something sweet, right? So it's really not possible to ban it. It's okay. For example, if it is slice or one piece, that's it. Let service come through, that's it. If it's too restricted, it's pity. So there's no clear information on what kind of fruit that they can take, how much, the quantity of the fruit that they can take. It's not that clear from the healthcare professionals, yeah. So these are some of the recommendations that we come up with. For the practice, we think that the healthcare professionals should possess knowledge of the existence of GDM guidelines and assess their suitability. Because from 21 healthcare professionals that I interviewed, none of them know about the GDM guidelines that are available in Indonesia. Healthcare professionals need to enhance their knowledge and understanding of GDM, and also give the effective communication can be achieved by enhancing healthcare professional communication skills to exhibit greater empathy. This is you know, cerita lama kaset baru. Every time we hear that about the communication problem between patient and healthcare professional around us. So we really need to get serious on this issue. To encourage women to access GDM care, healthcare professionals should pay attention to the privacy and confidentiality of the patient personal information. This is also like in us, because we tend to share information about our patient without permission from them. We really need to work on that as well. And for the recommendation, for the policy, national and local health authorities should disseminate information regarding the GDM guidelines to primary level healthcare facilities, because what happened in Indonesia is that we do have people on the ground that do not know about that. So it's in the national level, but it's not, you know, disseminated enough until the grassroots. I mean, the people who work in the public health center. Sufficient funds are required to provide in-service training for them, and policymakers should be aware of the importance of GDM identification among pregnant women. And also for the further research, conducting studies to investigate the GDM issues in Indonesia, including its prevalence, associated risk factor, and adverse consequences. Yeah, that's all from me, Linda. Over to you again.
Okay, so just coming to the end of the lecture, and just to focus on, well, you know, you've heard about GDM now. What can midwives actually do? Well,
sorry.
One thing you can do all the points through, and it's okay. I'll work through them. So we need to raise awareness amongst our professional colleagues, and that's the same in the UK as well. I do a lot of awareness training for midwives and health professionals. Raise the awareness in women who have the gestational diabetes, so they have control and they can understand the choices that they're making. And you know, in some rural areas, we may not have access to laboratory tests around us. But note that a glycosuria in the urine, so if it's 2+ on or above on one occasion, or 1+ above on 2 more occasions, detected by the testing strips that we use for the general care in. Sorry, can you go back, Reverend? Thank you. It may indicate undiagnosed gestational diabetes, so then a woman should be referred for further tests like fasting blood sugar and oral glucose test. And now this is obviously nice guidelines for us, but you can get that indication from the urine as well, that a woman may need further testing. Next slide, please. So we need to explain to women that when they develop GDM or have had a GDM in previous pregnancy, make sure they understand the role of diet, and it's presented in a way that they can understand and modify their diet, the role of body weight and exercise, and nausea and vomiting can affect blood glucose control. A lot of women have problems with that early in pregnancy, and explain the risk of having a baby who is larger for gestational age, as this does increase the likelihood of an instrumental birth. So the guidelines, there's references at the end, but the NICE guidelines are available online. Next slide, please. So for the baby, we need to explain there might be temporary health problems for the baby, as well as the long-term problems of developing obesity and diabetes. The most common problem is that a baby is born with hypoglycemia, so in fact very low blood sugar, because while they've been in the womb, they've been fed this constant high blood sugar from mum through the placenta, and their pancreas gets used to it and produces higher insulin, and then they're born and that source of glucose disappears. So the baby has high insulin and can go into hypoglycemic state, and it can be very serious. And indeed, some babies can end up either brain damaged or die if it's not managed. But we've got to get the balance. We've got to support women with this. We don't want them to be particularly too anxious in the pregnancy. We want to support them and get a balance. Next slide, please. So the key part, as I said, is lifestyle advice. So preconception if possible, not always possible, but certainly during pregnancy and postnatal, midwives have a role. And there's a lot of resources on Diabetes UK website, including one that's written for women in lay language about what it is. Now it is in English, but I'm sure you could translate it to Bahasa Indonesia as you need it. Very clear, and we need to use positive and encouraging language and support women, because it's not easy to lose weight and it's not easy to cut down on things that we like rice and certain types of fruit. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about postnatal care. Usually when women are on blood lowering glucose medication like metformin or insulin, this can be stopped completely. Women who've developed GDM should have their blood glucose levels checked when they're referred back to community care. And in the UK, we offer a fasting blood glucose test between 6 to 13 weeks postnatal to try and pick up those women that are at risk of type 2 diabetes going forward. We reinforce and support. Sorry, Rian, can you just go back? Could you just go back, Rian? Is it just doing its own thing? Never mind, leave it there at that one. Right, but and weight management advice, we have a special team in Leeds that can help women with weight advice and with exercise. That's an inclusive class that invites women and all postnatalists to come with their babies, so that they're welcomed and they can do exercise with a group with other women. Next slide, please. Training and support. We always need training and support as healthcare professionals. We know awareness of GDM is low in health professionals, but the good news is that these risk factors are modifiable, so we can learn to help women control and mitigate the risk. So that's where midwives are crucial in supporting women. And of course, midwives need training and support, and we all need to improve our own knowledge. So invite yourself to keep learning. We always keep learning throughout our careers. Next slide, please. So this is the references that you can access online. Next slide, please. So no more hiding. If you didn't know about gestational diabetes, you all know about it now. So let's move forward and explore this condition that's growing further. Next slide, please, Revin. So, Terima kasih. Thank you very much for listening, for your attention today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Linda, and also Mrs. Levin. So I'll move on to the next session. We will have the question and answer session. Ada mahasiswa yang mau bertanya? You can raise your hands or you can write your question in the chat room, chat box. Okay.
Feel free, everyone. You can ask in Bahasa.
Yeah.
I'll translate it with you if you like, or you can ask in English. That would be great as well. Or if you can and ask in Sundanese.
Yeah.
I used to, I
Or-
did my diploma in Unpad for 1 year, so that's why I know a little bit about Sundanese.
Oh, really?
Tadi.
Oh, gitu. Sakedik. Halo, halo students or the others lecturers maybe yang mau bertanya, dosennya mungkin. Sebentar.
I think
I think ya. Ya, ada pertanyaan dari Ica ya. So, she's asking Mrs. Prof. Linda, is it possible that gestational diabetes mellitus in the mother could influence the baby's genetic makeup, making the child more likely to develop the type 2 diabetes in life? And if so, to what extent is this risk influenced by heredity versus environmental factors during pregnancy? It's good. So it is very good question.
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, and something that we researchers are thinking about. We don't know if genetics are altered. There's a lot of work around epigenetics now. So, you know, the sort of things that go on in the womb, the uterus during birth, but there's no definite evidence that this exposure to, you know, hyperglycemia during pregnancy does affect the epigenetics, but research is ongoing and it's a possibility. So I wouldn't rule it out as a, you know, something we may find out. As a psychologist, for me, it's a lot about behavioral and lifestyle factors that the mother and the family already have. So, you know, if a mother, you know, the risks are being overweight, inactivity, poor diet. So if a child is born into a family that has those values already, then it's probably likely that those influence that child to become obese and develop type 2 diabetes. We know there's a link between you know, when women have gestational diabetes, there's a definite risk of the child developing, being overweight and having type 2. But it could be a mixture, of course, environmental factors and genetics. We don't really know, but we know there's a link, is the answer.
Ya, penelitiannya masih dalam banyak riset ya, walaupun memang sudah banyak papernya tentang epigenetik, perubahan epigenetik pada ibu hamil dengan GDM ya. Masih banyak risetnya, masih perlu banyak penelitian yang lebih lanjut. Oke. So, mana Ica? Is that clearly enough? Oke, buat yang lain?
It's clear enough. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Ica. Okay. So this afternoon is very interesting topic about gestational diabetes, this condition that a global burden that constantly rise due to the current increased sedentary lifestyle. Yeah. So recently, I am also research also in about the diabetes in Indonesia. We are using the Indonesian Health Survey in 2023 as the data, and we have currently we are still analyzing the result. So it is quite interesting. It is very interesting topic because mainly I can relate the fear, the anxiety that the women probably felt when they face the diagnosis of diabetes, because my mother also has type 2 diabetes, and sometimes that brings up that kind of anxiety to me. And and as all you know, that the stress alone also can increase the risk of dysregulation of glucose, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Jadi,
Yeah, absolutely. I think with all conditions now, this is why I'm what's called a health psychologist. So we're interested in those factors, not just the physical factors, which we also study, you know, from the genetics, from, you know, body mechanisms and that sort of thing. But it's the psychological, social, and cultural factors that also are involved in health and healthcare. So, you know, people can get too anxious about things, and that shuts them down, you know, from changing lifestyle. They get, oh, I don't want to know anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to you nasty health professional telling me all these things.
Yeah.
So it's the way we speak to women, and don't stigmatize them if women are overweight or they're not having such a good diet or they are inactive. The last thing to do is chastise them and say, come on, get on with it. You know, it doesn't work, that sort of method. We have to work and support women and find out what they're eating, what they're doing, and any exercise is good. You know, whether it's dancing or, you know, some people like swimming or it's just extra walking. It's encouraging, it's, you know, encouraging women and certainly not chastising them for these things, because then people don't listen. They'll listen to you in the room, but they won't they won't go outside and do the advice.
So jadi mahasiswa juga harus move ya, physical activity and lifestyle modification is very important to reduce the risk. So any question? Who else? Ada lagi yang mau bertanya? Kita masih punya nih 2 experts in this room. Jadi coba dimanfaatkan sebaik mungkin. Barangkali dari tingkat 1, the first grade students. Mana tingkat 1?
May I ask Professor Gawan? Halo,
Okay,
Mrs.
Mrs.
Ririn.
Verina, ya. Mrs. Verina, ya, oke, mangga, please.
Okay. I will ask with bahasa maybe.
Yeah, that's fine.
Please help me to translate to Prof. Gawan, okay?
Tenang teh, tenang, aman teh, aman, mangga.
Aman ya.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Ya. Apakah di UK itu di pendidikan bidan itu ada spesialisasi khusus untuk bidan yang bekerja di klinik sebagai seorang ahli diabetes mellitus? Apakah ada pendidikan khusus ataukah ada regulasi begitu yang mengatur hal tersebut gitu? Karena kan itu menjadi apa ya, keunggulan atau ekspertisnya si bidan tadi misalnya. Gitu Mbak Rin.
Yeah, that's also my question because
difficult to translate to English.
I think Prof. Linda have mentioned that there are special clinics and there are specialist midwife who are trained in specialty in diabetes in UK, right? That's the Mrs. Verina asked about.
Yeah. So the question, Linda, is around is it in the UK, in the educational level of the midwives, is there any, you know, platform or a formal stage for them to be trained as a midwife who are specialized in diabetes? That's the question.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Farina. Basically, in the UK, quite a few years ago, we developed what we call enhanced roles for midwives. So these are qualified midwives that have done their bachelor's degree in midwifery. Quite a few of our midwives now do master's degrees. And in fact, one of the specialist diabetes midwives, Jenny Roddy at the Trust, who I think you've met, Ririn, she did a master's degree with me looking at diabetes in pregnancy. So a lot of them are master's trained, and then they do a special master's and training in their area. So it could be we have specialist midwives for mental health. We have specialist midwives for multiple pregnancy, for example. We have specialist diabetes midwives. So they're highly trained and they're in our hospitals, and they do a lot of education then with other midwives. So in the clinical area, but also come to talk to our students as well. So yeah, the way the UK and for nursing has developed is that not all midwives do this, not all nurses become specialists, but there are pathways in our education system that allows health professionals to develop these extra skills, and there are roles then available at the teaching hospitals, at the top level hospitals, you know. So I think your tertiary hospitals, like not maybe so much at the local district hospitals, but very much at the big cities have the specialist midwives. Does that answer the question?
Okay.
Yes, Linda, but maybe they also ask about is it a degree, you know, like a like a formal one, or it's just based on the experience on the field around diabetes, and then you can call yourself as a midwife specialist.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I missed that bit of the question. Yeah, basically, it used to be that the midwives were in that area, so they might work and gravitate to diabetes and like it, and then, you know, with the help of the doctors and other people who were specialists, nutritionists, dietitians, would develop that role. But now people are expected to have a first degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. But that's developed, you know, initially. For example, myself, when I was a midwife many years ago, long time ago, I was interested in grief management. So when we have specialist bereavement midwives now in the UK, and they have masters, but I was just interested in supporting women that had stillbirth, fetal death in utero, neonatal death. So I just did some specialist training that the trust paid for, not a master's level, and developed a role within my hospital. So I think that, you know, there's ways of doing it without maybe getting a master's degree. But at the minute in the UK, it's definitely gone now to those specialists. Those who've got specialist roles tend to have a master's degree in it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gitu Teh Ferry. Gimana Teh?
Ya, terima kasih. Ya. Thank you, Profesor Gowan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih banyak. Terus mahasiswa mana yang mau bertanya? Oke.
Mungkin
Masih
satu
belum
lagi.
ada?
Kan ini waktunya mungkin Prof.
Oh,
Linda.
baik.
Kalau tidak.
Alright. Baik, satu lagi aja. Kalau enggak kita tutup ya. Tidak ada pertanyaan. Kalau tidak ada pertanyaan yang lain. Mahasiswa, yuk. Sudah? Atau dari dosen yang lain? Barangkali. Okay. All right. I think the students still absorb and still try to understand. Yeah. Baiklah.
I understand. Probably sometimes it might be a new topic.
Yeah.
So people have to think about it.
Yes.
And maybe read about it. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that's because the students haven't have the question yet. So probably we shall end the today's session. Jadi mau ditutup aja Bu Verina atau ada closing statement dulu mungkin dari oke. Di sini tadi kalau nggak salah ada Bu Kajur, mau ada closing statement dari Bu Kajur atau forward atau ada ini? Oke.
Atau mungkin sedikit lagi Bu Santi ya,
Oh ya.
terkait keunggulan diabetes mellitus gitu ya. Nah, mungkin apakah ada rekomendasi dari Prof. Gowen untuk pengembangan di institusi kita meskipun itu bukan jenjang khusus gitu ya, tetapi konsentrasi yang ditunjuk oleh Kementerian Kesehatan itu kita sebagai sentra unggulan diabetes mellitus. Barangkali apakah ada rekomendasi dari beliau untuk pengembangan pendidikan di kita? Mungkin itu the last question ya barangkali.
Untuk pengembangan pendidikan atau kurikulumnya
Iya,
atau
karena ya
apanya?
baik itu mungkin bahan kajian ataupun
Oke.
arah ya, karena itu menjadi mandatori dari eh, Ministry of Health in Indonesia to our institution as apa ya unggulan ya, unggulan sentra
Expertise.
unggulan
Yeah.
dengan diabetes mellitus begitu.
So, okay. In Poltekkes Bandung currently has a mandatory expertise in diabetes, mungkin gitu ya Teh. Do you have any suggestion or recommendation for the midwifery department probably to develop the education for the midwife students or to the midwife department to develop the education about diabetes and or the curriculum mungkin gitu teh pendidikannya apa
Ya,
ya kurikulumnya ya
ya.
or the curriculum do you have any suggestion or recommendation Professor Linda?
Oh, that's quite a
There,
big question. I think I don't know your curriculum, so it's difficult to comment directly on it. I'm quite happy to speak to people offline if they want to about curriculum. But I think in our curriculum, because I'm a midwife and a psychologist, perhaps one of the things that is enhanced in our curriculum in Leeds is that I'm able to, I didn't do it today, but work with people on how we do behavior change, you know, what the theories are, and so extra training in the psychological factors, but also how we train midwives to become experts in behavior change and supporting women, so they don't feel alone and they don't feel, oh, I don't know what to do here, or I don't know how to answer these questions. So we do some sessions added to our, sort of informative sessions about what things are, but more about how you would manage it and what advice you should be giving and how to give that advice. But that's probably as much as I can say without knowing the curriculum.
Okay. Kita tadi rekomendasinya cukup banyak di slide-nya kalau nggak salah ada beberapa rekomendasi terus untuk karena penelitiannya juga tadi mencakup ke tenaga kesehatan juga jadi lumayan
One thing.
mengejutkan juga gitu ya, surprising that there's not a lot of health professional who didn't know about the GDM guidelines. Jadi mungkin mengejutkan juga ya, karena ternyata kalau dari hasil lihat tadi hasil penelitiannya banyak juga healthcare professional yang kurang memahami mengenai guideline GDM untuk Indonesia itu sendiri. Dan mungkin itu PR kita juga gitu ya. Kemudian mungkin yang saya lihat tadi juga dari sisi psikologis gitu ya. Psikologis yang disentuh tentang kekhawatiran seseorang karena memang ya relate banget gitu karena saya rasa semua orang ketika terdiagnosis suatu penyakit sindroma metabolik gitu memang merasa ketakutan dan itu yang membuat orang menghindari saya nggak mau dilakukan cek kesehatan gratis gitu ya karena takut ketahuan penyakitnya apa aja gitu. Nah tadi banyak banyak apa informasi dari Prof Linda and Mrs. Lenin itu banyak banget. Karena kalau penelitian DM itu banyaknya menyentuh mengenai faktor risiko dan lain sebagainya, ternyata dari sisi psikologis yang jarang orang lihat, ternyata juga, ini yang menyebabkan orang merasa takut untuk melakukan pemeriksaan. Ternyata ibu-ibu juga merasa khawatir dan terkejut ketika dia terdiagnosis untuk GDM. Gitu, mungkin itu juga hal yang menarik dan bisa sebagai bahan masukan untuk pembelajaran mengenai GDM ini mungkin memasukkan mengenai sisi kekhawatiran atau anxiety atau apapun yang berkaitan dengan hal tersebut untuk memitigasi agar lebih baik. Jadi jangan usah takut untuk dilakukan diagnosis karena nanti kita akan mencoba untuk akan berupaya agar tidak terjadi GDM tipe 2 dengan melakukan pemeriksaan lanjutan dan sebagainya. Alright, maybe we shall end today's session. Everyone, before we close the session, I hope we will have the photo session maybe. Mahasiswa ini pada ada, tapi mukanya nggak ada. Tolong kita mau photo session dulu. You may open the camera. Silahkan dibuka kameranya. Prof, we will have the photo session with the students. Baik, mana yang lain mahasiswa? Aduh, yuk. Oke, sudah tidak berupa kerudungnya.
Oh,
Baik,
they're all appearing.
ya,
They've all been hiding.
ya, they hiding after all this time. Oke, kalian menyumpet dari mana? Cina tuh ya, ayo. Mana wajahnya cantik, yang cantik-cantik itu? Okay, we have 6 slides. So please open your camera and hold your smile. Kita nggak tahu kamu ada di slide yang mana. Oke, tunggu ya. Oke, the first slide. And 3, 2, 1. Oke, sinar kayaknya masih
My
kebalik.
cat came in.
Ya?
My
Oh,
cat
I
just
love
walked in.
cat. I also
Sorry.
have cat.
No.
Beautiful cat.
Lovely.
He wants to be in the photo.
Okay.
My
It's
cat-
okay.
Yeah, I think he would like to be in the picture.
Oh,
That's
no.
why. Come on.
A cute cat.
Oh, dear.
Okay. For the next slide.
Mm.
The second slide. That's okay, Kitty. Gak apa-apa. Okay. I also have 10 cats currently because my cats just gave birth.
Oh gosh.
Kittens. We have 5
I love
kittens.
cats. This is an older cat. He's called
Oh.
Marcel, and he's 13 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he's quite an
Quite
old man.
old. Yeah. Is it female or male?
Male cat.
Oh, okay, male cat.
Yeah.
Aduh, sehat sekali kucingnya ya. Oke, anak-anak sudah untuk so we have 6 slides for the photo session. Okay, thank you very much once again, Professor Linda McGowan and Mrs. Lirin. This is very productive and interesting afternoon. And since my previous research also focused on diabetes, I'm very interested in exploring the possibility of pursuing PhD with diabetes also, but I don't know when. Belum tahu kapan.
I can give you advice on that offline. Just email me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Boleh,
I can't
boleh.
do it myself, but I can give you advice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Baik, mungkin nanti pengen diskusi sama Bu Ririn dapatnya.
Boleh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, contact Andrew in, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So, baik, dear students, lecturers, Professor Gon, Mrs. Lirin, on behalf of the Poltekkes Kemenkes Bandung, the midwifery department, thank you once again for sharing your knowledge and time. And thank you the students, the academic community of Poltekkes Kemenkes Bandung who have active participated in this meaningful event. So let's keep learning, sharing, and supporting women's health together. Maybe that's all for today. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time in another
you.
event. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Oke,
everybody.
Bye.
bye. Oke.
Gitu.
Ayo mahasiswa. Baik.
Baik.
Ya, menarik ya. Ini mahasiswa tingkat 1 masih pada shocking. Oh, apa sih bahasa Inggrisnya apa nah?
Belajar meskipun nggak bisa juga ya.
Ini tuh
Lumayan
di-record
nyambut
ya,
vocabulary.
di-record ya, di-record. Jadi mungkin nanti kalau Anda yang belum menyerap tadi kecepatan informasinya dan lain sebagainya, bisa nanti minta recordingnya ke Bu Tiwi ya. Terus Anda baca lagi, pelajari lagi. Ini yang anak-anak English Club mana tuh? Ada siapa? Mana saya kenal nggak? Nah, Suci. Itu lagi A2 mana ada nggak ada? Atifah mana lagi? Fatma. Kenapa nggak berani nanya? Harus berani nanya ya. Terus si Ica tuh, Ica. Baik, ini baik. Terima kasih banyak untuk mahasiswa yang sudah gabung. Jadi aktivitas English Club-nya hari ini aja. Bikin resume yang tadi. Oke, thank you. Terima kasih banyak. Ibu, boleh saya izin end meetingnya ya. See you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam.